There are 4 different adult attachment styles: secure, avoidant, fearful, and the one we'll be discussing today, anxious. Anxious attachment style accounts for around 25% of the population, and like the other attachment styles, it was most likely created in childhood in relation to parental attachment. In Mary Ainsworth's strange situation experiment, the anxiously attached baby would become distressed when the mother would leave the room, but when the mother re-entered, the baby would act ambivalent. They'd be happy to see their mother, but also angry that they'd left and would take a while to stop crying. In adulthood, these anxious patterns can manifest themselves in distressing manners that can take a negative toll on any relationship. Based on the research from the book Attached by Amir Levine MD and Rachel Heller MA, which details the differences between the 4 attachment styles, we've created today's video, 8 signs you have an anxious attachment style. And be sure to stick around until the end. The last sign is our favorite sign for discovering whether or not you have an anxious attachment style. Number 8. You often desire and crave a lot of closeness, emotional and physical, in a relationship. If you have an anxious attachment style, you might find yourself desiring and pushing towards more closeness in a relationship, even if it's a new relationship. Often people with an anxious attachment style crave intimacy and will lower their boundaries before they fully know their partner. They may confide in them all their vulnerabilities on the first date, or maybe they're moving into their new partner's apartment after only a month of dating. Anxiously attached people want to become intertwined in their partner's lives, making being abandoned feel more difficult. Number 7. When you're not in a relationship, you're unhappy. As hard as you try to be strong and independent, you can't help but always feel unsatisfied on your own. Sometimes it feels like you consider any eligible single person, even if they aren't your type, because you don't want to be alone. Every first date makes you feel nervous as you pick out the perfect outfit, rehearse conversation points in your head, and tend to enter the date as if the person you are going out with may be the one you end up marrying. While it's good to be optimistic and believe in love, sometimes these insecurities about being alone result in you becoming easily attached to someone who might not treat you with the level of intimacy and closeness you crave. For example, anxious attachment style seems to have a gravitational pull towards avoidant attachment style, despite these 2 styles often having an unhealthy, but sometimes salvageable, dynamic. Avoidants push people away, while anxious attachments pull them in, tightly. Naturally, this tug-of-war of emotions can often leave the anxious partner feeling distraught, having negative thoughts, and going through repeated heartbreaks. If you have an anxious or avoidant personality style and are wondering if you've fallen into a damaging anxious-avoidant relationship, check out our signs in the related video listed below. Regardless, it's important to fill your life with other joys outside of a relationship, so you don't need to feel pressured to always be in one. Always remind yourself that you are a whole and complete person, with or without a significant other. Number 6. You're unable to refrain from expressing your insecurities and your fears of rejection or abandonment. With a label like anxious attachment, it shouldn't come as a surprise that some of their behaviors might be a little, neurotic. If you can relate to this, then we are sure that you'll know that you shouldn't keep asking for validation. No one likes someone who's too needy, but you can't refrain. You'll get an idea in your mind that your partner has lost feelings for you. Maybe they haven't been responding to your texts fast enough. Maybe they didn't kiss your forehead before leaving for work that morning, even though you could hear they were rushing to not be late. Regardless, you'll try to calm yourself down, but once your anxious attachment style is activated, you'll feel the need to reach out for some sign that you won't be abandoned. You might ask your partner seemingly out of the blue questions like, "Do you still love me?" when to their knowledge they've done nothing to make you feel otherwise. Or maybe you ask questions about their ex-romantic partners, trying to figure out where you compare next to them, even if your partner is completely over them. Often insecure and in a constant state of fear that your partner will lose interest in you, you might feel like you'll go the extra mile to please them, even if it risks your own authenticity and comfort. Number 5. You play mind games, either intentionally or unintentionally. It is hard to admit that you are guilty of playing mind games sometimes. It's manipulative and wrong, and you wish you were innocent of engaging in such an act. But 25% of the global population is said to have anxious attachment style and will behave in this manner at times. But that doesn't mean that 25% of the population is bad because they play mind games while insecure. So, if you do engage in mind games, either intentionally or unintentionally, do not beat yourself up over it or lie in a pit of self-loathing. What you should do is recognize the behavior as maladaptive and wrong. Accept that you engage in it and try to break the habit of playing mind games with your partner. First, let's identify why people with anxious attachment styles engage in these mind games. One explanation describes these mind games as protest behavior. Protest behaviors are behaviors that try to gain attention or reestablish contact with your partner, likely because you're feeling insecure about the relationship. Instead of having a calm and mature discussion about their insecurities and problem solving to find a compromise together, if you have an anxious attachment style, you might conduct one of these protest behaviors. If they're not answering their text messages or phone calls, instead of patiently waiting or assuming they're busy at work, you might flood their inbox with messages with each one ignored as more evidence they don't care about you. You might keep score in your relationship, keeping a tally of how many times you have right or wronged each other to use against them if you are winning. For example, if they are late for dinner on more than one occasion, you may use that against them. But had you been recently late yourself, you wouldn't use that excuse yourself, would you? Regardless, someone being late doesn't need to indicate any loss of feelings. Often, it's just bad traffic. Other ways you may try to show off your protest behavior is by ignoring them for extended periods of time in hopes that they'll reach out first. You might also try to make them jealous to gauge a reaction and let them know you're still desirable. Sometimes you'll even threaten to leave the relationship with no real intention to, immediately regretting the harsh words as soon as they come out of your mouth. If this sounds like you, don't worry. The good news is that recent research suggests people can change their attachment style to become more secure over a 4-year period. Talk to your therapist if you want more information on how to become more securely attached. By the way, if you're finding this video valuable so far, then make sure to hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. And why not subscribe so you can keep learning more? It's free. Number 4. You struggle to communicate what is bothering you and often expect your partner to guess what you're thinking. Part of playing mind games or acting in protest behaviors is due to people with an anxious attachment style struggling to communicate their needs in a relationship. Instead, they might expect their partners to act like a mind reader, picking up the subtle clues that they're upset. Naturally, no one can read minds, and not everyone is as intuitive and looking out for signs of danger like anxiously attached people. When the hints aren't picked up on by their partner, this can leave each of them frustrated. Instead of creating a nonverbal conflict, try having an open discussion about what is bothering you. Number 3. Everything else will become a second priority to the relationship, making you very preoccupied with your partner. Sometimes the anxious attachment style is instead referred to as the fitting, preoccupied attachment style. If you think you're anxiously attached, we are sure you'll understand why it has received this other label. When in a relationship, you might become so preoccupied with your partner that other areas of your life become neglected. After ending a date with them, they will likely go home to sleep, but you'll stay up all night rehashing all the details in your mind or to your friends. You begin caring less about other interests because so much of your day is spent with them or daydreaming about them. Remember, it's never healthy to make your significant other the only priority in your life. Don't forget who you were before they came around. Number 2. You're distrustful and suspicious of your partner despite being dependent on them. Being suspicious and distrustful of your partner is natural for the anxiously attached individual. They're always expecting and preparing for themselves to get hurt and will sometimes try to seek out evidence to confirm their suspicions, even if their suspicions aren't accurate at all. Maybe you're hyper-aware of your partner's whereabouts or snoop through their emails when they're not looking. Regardless, mistrustful and suspicious behavior, especially when unwarranted, is a quick way to end a relationship, and you'll end up appearing as the untrustworthy one. Number 1. You let your partner set the tone of the relationship and follow their lead. In an attempt to not get hurt by putting their vulnerable emotions on the table, anxiously attached people will often let their partner dictate the tone of the relationship while they passively follow the lead. For example, say you have an anxious attachment style and you begin dating someone you really like. You've been on a dozen dates, they have met a few of your friends, and you have great chemistry with a ton in common. You really want to make the relationship official, only exclusively dating each other. However, your partners still insist on labeling the relationship as just casual, with no strings attached. This naturally will make you insecure and confused about whether they are truly interested in you. Instead of establishing your boundaries and needs in the relationship, if you are anxiously attached, you will likely keep your worries to yourself and pretend you're fine with the dynamic. By not sharing your true thoughts and feelings with your partner, you may then later engage in more protest behavior as a way to gauge their level of commitment. And if you like this video, then check out these related videos to see more.